What's going on, Five Sharp fam? We have a special guest again to help us preview the match this weekend. Please welcome back Between Clean Sheets, aka Cheyenne. Cheyenne, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, and thanks again for joining us. But yeah, last time out, it worked out pretty well for us, at least for Five Sharp fans. But condolences on that result. But you're in much better form, and yeah, you guys beat FC Cincy 2-1 in the previous match. But I have to ask, is 2020 a lost season for you guys?
Oh man, honestly, if you had asked me that question even a couple months ago, I probably would have given you the same answer, which is definitely. We're now in the situation that you guys are in with an interim coach, which wasn't the case the last time we played.
It wasn't.
We've done a little bit better, and I think because of that, are giving players who normally wouldn't be in the starting lineup, we're giving them a chance to kind of go for it because there's not much else to prove, not much else to accomplish this season. But 2020 in general, I mean, I don't want to get existential with it, but it has been such a weird year for everybody. And the fact that we finally sacked our longtime coach, Ben Olsen, is just puts me in kind of an alternate reality, if I'm being honest.
Definitely. And I mean, would you say maybe, this talk maybe had something to do with it? That previous one where we put him on blast a little bit, maybe, and put the pressure on the front office.
I was bracing for the worst, thinking it would be like a 0-0 draw or maybe a 2-0 loss, but you guys came out and crushed us. So it was that game, and then shortly thereafter, New York City beat us 4-1. And I think it had already been in conversation that Ben Olsen was probably going to be on his way out at the end of the season, but after that loss to New York City, there was no way they were going to wait any longer. Yeah. So we definitely took our time. I think you guys figured it out a lot sooner this season, even with the pandemic. But I would say we finally made the right choice, and we'll have the off season and lack of playoff schedule to kind of figure out where we go from here.
Right. So what is Ben Olsen doing still with the team, obviously? Like, what is his role now?
Oh, man. I think that's still TBD, if I'm being honest. In my opinion, I feel like he would be a great director of philanthropy, maybe, or maybe a mentor or kind of like tutor in the ways of MLS to new players. I'm not sure they figured out exactly what he'll be doing. Coaching, I hope he stays far away. But I also think just because of how difficult the experience is to finally stop coaching, I think he's going to take his time and figure out exactly how. Because I don't know if anyone watching knows this, but Ben Olsen's contract stipulated that if he was fired before the end or terminated, fired is a word I haven't used. I've said mutually decided to part ways or resigned, sacked, whatever. But if he was let go as coach before the end of his contract, that he would be allowed to stay on with the team in some capacity. It was not specified in his contract, but they clearly like him enough that they want him to stay around even if it's not coaching. So that's a very weird part of any contract. I don't know as if I've known any coach to have that kind of agreement with their team. But if anyone's going to do it, I guess it's Ben Olsen.
He's clinging on to, I guess, whatever it is, the relationship that they have, I guess. But it's very, yeah. I'm sure very awkward. But
say he has dirt on somebody. He has to have dirt on somebody.
Some skeletons that he knows about. There's just something. But anyway, there obviously will need to be a replacement. There is an interim head coach in the meantime, but there have been some coaching rumors, notably U.S. Women's National Team, formerly head coach Jill Ellis, FC Tulsa coach Michael Encian as well has been linked. Who do you want as the head coach long term?
So this is something I haven't tried to think too hard about. As names come up, I do stew on it a little bit. One thing I was very vocal about was not wanting Jill Ellis to be our coach. I think she had the benefit, personally, I think she had the benefit of just having a dynamic group of women that played, and some of her former players even said, and won championships, trophies, etc., in spite of her coaching. Now, I think a lot of players have said that about coaches that we like and don't like, but I think there's something about Jill Ellis that I just didn't think would fit well with what DC United needs at this point. And you mentioned Encian from FC Tulsa, who's done a fabulous job with his club. Obviously, FC Tulsa recognized that, and for those of you who haven't seen the statement that they made it very clear that they understood that his accolades and achievements in Tulsa would obviously garner the attention of a team like DC United. I will say, though I haven't come up with any names of guys I would like to see, I could see a winning coach from USL becoming our coach. The only thing I don't want is another player-coach situation. That's how Ben Olsen started. He was one of the most legendary players in the 2000s for DC United, and became interim when our last coach got sacked, and then kind of made his way to coach. And because he had that relationship with the team, like I said, it took a long time for them to finally let him go, whereas I think that they would have done that far sooner with another coach. So
Right. Yeah, no, that's very interesting because, yeah, definitely on our podcast, my guest on this week's episode mentioned that maybe a former player of ours in Michael Parkhurst, maybe if he ever wanted to coach, could be someone that we should look at. That's very funny, and I think, maybe that's a kind of cautionary tale because of Ben Olsen that, we might not want to maybe turn that stone maybe just yet. But yeah, let's move on to, though, I think we have to kind of always talk about Julian Gressel because this is an Atlanta United channel. He has finally gotten back into the DC side in terms of the starting 11. But I'm curious, when Paul Arriola returns, who do you think starts in right midfield, assuming both are kept?
Oh man, definitely Paul. And I think depending on who the coach is, Ben Olsen at the beginning of this year, I believe I mentioned last time we spoke, was putting Julian Gressel in the middle of the field, which I didn't think was the smartest choice. But Paul is far more versatile. I think you could see him being on the left or maybe in the middle more than you could see Gressel being that way. I really think it depends on how he bounces back, Paul bounces back from the ACL surgery, having, like Martinez, for y'all, having been gone for so long. And his injury happened before the season even started. So I predicted that Julian Gressel would start in our game, our last match against Atlanta, and he did not. But like I said, different coach this time around, and he played pretty well against Cincinnati. So whether or not he stays in that position long term, I do think he'll finish out the season this way. So at least we have that. And even before Gressel, Yamil Assad, who played for Atlanta, has proven himself to be pretty valuable in midfield. So I would say we're grateful for the players you guys are giving us. If I don't think I'd take anyone from your team this year, but we'll take your leftovers. At this point, I guess we could take some guys from your team. I'll take Brooks Lennon if you guys want to give him to us.
There might be some fans that might kind of take you up on that offer, unfortunately. I think he's been solid, but yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if you guys need any more right-sided players that, kind of play the same position, though. So that might be maybe a conflict of interest.
That's right. You're
right. But in terms of that, though, largely, I'm sure there will probably be a lot of turnover. Who do you see like maybe the biggest names that's maybe left out in 2021
in our lineup?
In your lineup.
It's hard to say. I really thought Ola Kamara for our team was going to be a much more dynamic player than he's ended up being. And I mean, we haven't even talked about the fact that since the last time that we talked, Higuain left for Miami. So
Indeed.
He was another guy I was really expecting to kind of help lead the team from up top. And we're still kind of figuring out our forward situation. I would say most of the big names come from the offense. And I honestly can't say any of the guys that are playing forward for us right now or up top in any of our lineups are really guys that I would demand a coach to keep around, you know? And I don't hope for another situation like we had with Wayne Rooney. I do appreciate a big name, but I just can't be jerked around like that. I don't want to get excited about a guy and then have him leave a year later. So
mid-season even.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I know, it's tough.
That had to absolutely be brutal. But yeah, you kind of took one of my questions by mentioning Federico Higuain. He has of course moved on to Inter Miami, but what kind of impact did he have on the club in general? I mean, he was a player coach, right?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if he was officially, however, he was our saving grace in the MLS's back tournament. He didn't start any of the games, but I remember in our game against Toronto, the very first game of that tournament, he came in and scored one for us right away. And we, to that point, hadn't had a finisher. We thought Kamara would be that. We've got Jordi Reyna, Sorga, who I have a few mixed feelings about, and then Rivas, who we signed in August. I mean, none of those guys are as great of finishers as I've known Higuain to be, but he just wasn't starting for us. He's a little bit older, of course, and I think by the end of it, he was really more interested in leaving than he was sticking around. So I wish him the best, but I wish that he had stayed longer, unfortunately. I understand why he didn't, though.
Yeah. Maybe if he had been a little younger when he actually joined you guys, then he probably would have made a bigger impact, unfortunately,
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like you might have covered some of this in terms of, who we need to keep an eye on then. You are pretty much saying maybe not many, but are there any players that we should keep an eye on for the match on Saturday?
Yeah, so the last time we spoke, Edison Flores was still recovering from a facial fracture, and wasn't in our starting lineup. He's playing on the left wing for us and has done a pretty good job in the games he's been back for. So I would say between him, Adui Achem, who scored his very first MLS goal against Cincinnati over the weekend, and then Donovan Pines. And the fun fact about it is Pines and Frederick Briant, who's also played in our back four, are the only two players to score goals in consecutive games this year, and they are both defenders. So if that doesn't give you the most perfect picture of how our season is going, I don't know what will.
Yeah, no, but that still worries me because Brad Guzan does kind of allow goals to youngsters and possibly from distance. So hopefully that is not the case, but he is susceptible in that regard. So, with, I guess, all that being said, how do you think DC lines up against Atlanta on Saturday?
So I think Bill Hamid, having returned to training this week, will likely get a start in goal. I do think that we'll stick with our 4-4-2 formation. I think that's something that Chad Ashton, our interim coach, is not going to be changing anytime soon. I don't think they're interested in trying any new things. But yeah, the back line will be the same as I feel it's been for the past few weeks with Adui Achem, Pines, Briant. Steve Birnbaum played one of his last games against y'all. He's out for the rest of the season.
Oh, no.
But midfield, I think, will be a bit of a mixed bag. Moses Nyman, the 16-year-old, crushed it against Cincinnati and has been such a quiet giant on the field for us. He plays like a 25-year-old, which is so phenomenal and incredible to me. But I definitely see him starting. As for the rest of the midfield, I don't know. Russell Canals, who's played with us for a while, is back after a yellow card suspension, so I see him in the midfield. And I'm going to say Gressel again. I want to see Julian Gressel in the lineup. He was there for FC Cincinnati. I don't know why we would change the one win we've had in the past 10 games. So up top is the only thing I can never predict. We've got several forwards available, including Jordi Reyna, who hasn't played for the past 4 matches. So he may play, probably won't get a start though. It was actually rumored that he might have had COVID-19 but was never confirmed. So if that's the case, you never really know how that affects your body long term, but I'm sure he'll be on the bench available for use if need be. But those are my guesses. 4-4-2. What else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but that's all we got. We're just hunkering down for the rest of this season.
Yeah, keeping it simple and maybe trying to play direct against us. But will Canoes actually be in the squad this time, or?
Honestly, that I have to chalk that up to a Ben Olsen error. So if Ben Olsen is gone, mistakes like that will not be made, which I feel like everyone says Ben Olsen played Benny ball, which is to say there wasn't a tactic or a strategy that was particularly his, but it was one of those like everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and yet we might win, we might not. That was definitely Benny ball, like I've never seen it before. And it was funny for me to see Atlanta United fans get mad online because I thought, y'all are winning. Can you just chill? He's not gonna like score 3 goals out of nowhere. Just let us have this thing. We're trying.
I get it from your standpoint as well, but it definitely was just where, it's the refs, the consistency is just not in the cards ever. So, something that was called in another match, and this instance, maybe 3 years later, it's not called the same. It's just like, there's nothing retroactive. And then I think we had maybe Franco Escobar get suspended because of something retroactive. I think we were just salty. We were very angry at the world.
Yeah. I feel like the rules this year are just out the window for everybody. I mean, we won't even need to touch on it, but the whole supporter shield conversation.
Yes.
It's just people are like, well, what counts this year? What doesn't count? What matters? What doesn't matter? Nothing matters. So,
what's your take
how
on
I feel.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, you're not you guys aren't really involved per se in the supporter shield, and neither are we really. But what's your take on it?
I feel like, and I have a friend who works for the Rapids, and I was having this conversation with him the other day. He said, should the Rapids be in the playoffs, even though they haven't played as many games, but they're still technically in the playoff cutoff? And I said, honestly, the fact that you guys are that ahead and haven't played games because of COVID, like, go for it. It was one of those, like, who cares? But to me, the supporter shield, I feel like there are teams that should be rewarded for not having their players and staff contract COVID, who have followed all the rules and made sure that they have remained healthy and competitive and strong for the whole season. So to me, I think Toronto's made such a great case for themselves this year that to not award them, even if it's a supporter shield with an asterisk, I say go for it. Nothing this year is going to be what it is normally. Not the Cup, not the MLS's back tournament championship, not the supporter shield, not even the schedule. There's nothing normal about any of this. So I think people are just salty that Toronto's been playing Vancouver and Montreal like back to back to back for what feels like an entire decade. So maybe that's probably. I can get that, but I don't know. Put an asterisk next to it and we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree with someone with that. It's if they can really, I think, power through this type of year, then they should at least maybe MLS can award something, and maybe in the future, if supporter shield is not the thing, possibly kind of, maybe go with the whole American sports thing with each conference having a winner, kind of rewarding the imbalance of the schedules as well that way, but. I mean, it could be. It's just, supporter shield is just so funny. Anyway, it's just people that win the supporter shield don't necessarily win the MLS Cup. So, like, does this really matter? Maybe only to Toronto. Yeah, it's probably only
New York
Toronto.
Red Bulls has entered the chat.
Exactly, and that too, exactly. But yeah. So in terms of your 4-4-2, I think it's gonna be interesting for us because you guys playing with 2 strikers, should we go with 3, center backs to really, I think, account for both of them? It'll be maybe something that Glassy will think about, but I think we're still gonna go with probably our 4 men at the back. But I think with all that being said, though, what's your score prediction gonna be?
With your ideas or prediction about the lineup, I say if you don't put 4 guys in the back, that we will probably be far more competitive than we were the last time we met. We have done a great job of finishing and rebounding and kind of tangling back lines up a bit, because we've got those defenders who are just absolute giants. I mean, Donovan Pines is truly like a tree. So I think now that we've been able to connect a little bit more, I will say we won't be scoreless. That's one thing I can predict with certainty. Yeah. But I think, I don't know, I could see like a 2-2 draw, possibly a 2-1 win for DC United. Maybe I should whisper that so nobody hears me.
No,
remember what I
I'll
predicted
boost
last
time? Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I think I might, like, for luck, have to maybe call it a 0-0 draw again or something, because it really turned out pretty well for us. But I think realistically, more so, I think it's a 2-1 win for Atlanta. There's definitely goals. I don't know. Yeah, you're saying you don't know where goals might be coming from. For us, it might be been a little bit difficult, but at least recently. But I think surely against the last place team in the Eastern Conference, we can, right? Knock on wood. Oh my God, this whole show is a curse then, probably. But anyway, so viewers,
say, the Braves lost. The Falcons are doing terrible. What else do you want? I think Atlanta United is just begging to join that list. UGA lost to Alabama.
Cheyenne, no. Cheyenne, no.
You're like, thank you, good night, goodbye.
We're pretty close to the end of the show, so it's it's pretty much that. But no, it's I think hopefully it goes our way selfishly in terms of what I said. So, but if it goes either way, I think we were so kind of so far gone, maybe in maybe hoping we're getting into the playoffs anyway. So this would be a death knell if it does happen, probably, to our playoff hopes. But hopefully we do not let that happen. So anyway, viewers, let us know what your score predictions are in the comments below. But before we go, Cheyenne, please let us know where the good people can find you and what you're working on.
I am currently working on a number of things, kind of wrapping up what 2020 has looked like for DC United and the rest of the season. Those things will be posted on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at BTWNCLEANSHEETS. And the biggest question I want answered from everybody is whether or not they think Mercedes-Benz is going to provide any sort of home field advantage this weekend with the lack of crowd. So I don't know. Part of me thinks yes, but I'm like, but it'll also be empty. So, like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, no, it's going to be filled at least very slightly soon. So, maybe there could be that little marginal advantage that could happen.
One very loud screaming person.
Right, exactly. And that's just like a janitor that's just really into the team or something. But
who's like, I thought there was supposed to be football in here.
Exactly. What's happening? Echo. Yeah, exactly. But anyway.
No,
well,
thank
Cheyenne,
you so much for having me again.
Yes, indeed. Always a pleasure. And, we'll see about the Twitch on Saturday if she joins us for the watch along. Keep your eyes peeled. We will see. But anyway, thank you again, Cheyenne, and to everyone. I've been AJ. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.